are able to insure your asset and you are able to enjoy the capital appreciation that comes from a property that's compliant.
But there's a dead end there.
Yes. And that's where we come in to try and advocate with the different local governments. In the city of Cape Town, we have had progress to date because we have partnered with civil society organizations to say to the political principals in the city of Cape Town, as well as the bureaucrats, the administrators, to say, you have to do something about this because people are building anyway. They were willing to listen. And today there's a bylaw that has been put out that tries to give these rights in townships around Cape Town to enable the densities that make financial sense for entrepreneurs to build in those areas, but that ensures that it's controlled and is known by the city. So the city of Cape Town did very well from our advocacy and lobbying in that respect. But city of Joburg was, I think, a leader in this because if you look at Soweto, for instance, already in 2015, it's already a zone res 3. It allows for those densities. But what they are now starting to realize,
not Tembisa or Davidton?
I wanted to come to that.
Yeah.
What they didn't realize is that, all this res 3, what happens to parking and roads?
Yes.
Now they're starting to say, let's deal with consent, etc., for parking, because that seems to be an issue. But in Soweto, we've been able to fund a lot of entrepreneurs because res 3 allows for a medium density structure, which is more, from a feasibility point of view, makes more sense because you can get anything between 10, 15 units instead of only 4.
And get parking relaxation or?
Yeah, but now they're starting to I think, start to want specific consent around parking, but we're still watching the space. But
where are people going to get parking?
But Ekurhuleni is another story altogether. They are willing, you speak to the officials in the development planning unit, they're willing to look at it, but they're not moving with the necessary speed. We had one development that we financed in Davidton. It took 2.5 years just to get the rezoning approved. You can imagine the holding costs for that entrepreneur who's a small developer starting out. Now you have to pay because you own the land now. You bought the property, pay rates and taxes, but you're not making income from the property because we wouldn't allow them to start building until the rezoning is approved and the plans are approved, etc. So it took, and then Tembisa, you literally can't do anything in Tembisa and Vosloorus because the scheme
is... You didn't finance 2 of my properties.
Yeah, because the scheme is, but people build.
Town planning scheme.
People in Vosloorus and Tembisa build with or without us, and that's why we go to the city and speak to them about this concept of lockout. Because if you look at it,
lockout,
where formal institutions like ourselves are locked out of that market, so we are unable.
You can't make money now.
We can't finance the entrepreneurs who are needing this support simply because we can't do things illegally. Because imagine, they are very nervous to go and pursue you on your own as an entrepreneur trying out, and him and me in our individual capacities. But if a formal institution was known to have financed those, they will make an example of us. So obviously we are locked out. They will come for the institution. Right. So we are locked out, so we can't finance.
Bigger fish to fight
Yes, with. Exactly. So we don't finance simply because we don't want to take that risk, but also because we are a law-abiding company. We want to do things properly to make sure, but also it makes no sense for us to finance a client for a building that they can't sell it for value because they're not compliant. Because it's to build 10 units, but that original structure was supposed to be a 2-bedroom house. The market is only going to pay you for 2-bedroom house.
2-bedroom house.
Until you have compliance for the 10 units.
Yeah.
You see, so that's the trick.
That's unfortunate. But as a woman in a leadership role, what have been some of the challenges you faced? And how have you overcome them? I mean, I've heard some of the challenges you faced as an institution, but I want to come back to you and say, man, you've played a leadership role in institutions. What are some of the challenges you think you faced over the years?
Sure. I think that, some of them are real challenges, but maybe most of them are perceived challenges. More in your mind, you go in there and you're already yourself feeling that you are being questioned because you're a woman. So I think that as women, because I think women by nature, we're perfectionists. We like to do things properly. We want to make sure that, the right boxes are ticked. So you overthink the issues before there are actual issues. So you think, oh, these guys are dismissing me before they've actually even thought that you are, a female leader. They're not looking at you as a female leader. You're just a colleague. That way. So I think there's also that sentiment where we overthink things, but there's real challenges that, I know I have faced going to a construction site, for instance, and it's mainly men who are the professionals, the quantity surveyor, the structural engineer, and the contractor. And you are coming in there as a woman wanting progress report. And then until they realize that you are the one who has to sign off the payment for the next phase, they can be dismissive. They're not really wanting to engage you. So they'll talk to your junior who is male because they think he's the one who's a decision maker. And then quickly they realize, no, actually, we won't get our next payment. That's the person who's deciding. And then you see the attitudes changing. I have experienced that a couple of times on a construction site where, you can see the attitude is, what do you know? This is a men's thing. You are a woman.
World.
Yeah. So you get that. But I do think that most of the issues are more our own fears as women than actual real experiences, without underplaying the real because the real experiences are there. The issues of, are women being paid the same as men for the same job? We ensure, for us it's a rule, same pay for similar kind of work. But I know I have people, friends and colleagues who have worked in different industries who have left simply because they know someone who came who's male after them,
offered
more for less work or similar work. So those things, we can't dismiss them. And in construction sites, I've had young women come to me and complain about sexual harassment. It's a truth. It happens. People, you go to site and, comments are being made about how you look in these safety clothing. So there is a lot of sexual harassment, I think, that happens, but goes under the radar in construction sites because people simply don't report it enough because it doesn't lead to actual physical touching. But the comments and the, just the emotional stress of it is real for young ladies, especially that I've spoken to who work in construction sites. But
so what advice do you give the young ladies then? Because that are in either governance, entrepreneurship?